So, what did you think reading your character, Austin?
What did I think reading my, I don't know, I kind of got like an anti-hero vibe, if that makes sense. Kind of like Dawn Wiener in Welcome to the Dollhouse. It's not, you know, he's likable, but he's not too likable. Like, he has a tragic flaw that does cause some trouble, and it just so happens that he's a crazy woman's involved. But yeah, I don't know. That's there's still more to think about, if that makes sense.
Evan, what about you? What did you think?
I thought the character I'm reading for, George, is quite a sidekick to his awful boss, and he's very dark, maybe a little confusing, but they all have their charm, I suppose, in a very bizarre way.
Were there moments in the script that you laughed out loud, or were you mostly like wincing and shock? I'm asking that to Evan.
Probably maybe half and half. Half laughing, half wincing. Definitely the second half would be a lot more wincing than the first. But I think all the characters are funny in like a serial mom kind of way.
Right, serial mom. So John, you bring up John Waters.
Yes.
Do you think there's a John Waters element to this story?
Yeah, it's sort of John Waters meets like live action Rocky and Bullwinkle. I don't know why those characters popped into my head.
Great. Austin, what's your feeling about the workplace when you think of this, how this script and storyline applies to the contemporary workplace?
Oh God, that's a tough one. Cause on the note, can I trek back to the John Waters reference?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's something, and I mean, there's truth in it, but there is something highly offensive about just because, you know, everything is so tense. Yeah, also The Graduate, kind of, if that makes sense. Like, there's kind of that element, and the idea of sex and prey, like prey, like not, you know, but like lion. But it is done in a funny way. Very, very much like stand-up is kind of supposed to be offensive. The workplace, I mean, it gets into the question of like, yeah, if a man did say that a woman was sexually harassing him, to what extent, you know, I don't have a 9-to-5, I don't know, but to what extent would we go with that? You know, would we believe it? Is there a double standard? Reverse sexism? Is it a thing? I don't know, because I'm not in this world.
Ty, what did you think of your character? What did you think of Sharon?
I had so many mixed feelings about her. I'm a hardcore feminist, so I am in conflict about her. I liked her badassness, like that she just does what she wants, because I wish I could be like that. But I also have a real problem, like that rape scene was very difficult for me. But I also liked it that it's showing that men can be raped, because I don't think people talk about that.
Evan, what did you think of the explicit nature of the various scenes involving the pairings of the different couples and the love triangle and all that?
Even though I guess it's really difficult to watch a scene like that that's so graphic, I guess it's sort of important to have it be that way, because that's how it would be in real life, I'm imagining. I don't know, I've never been there, but I'm also a feminist, so it is sort of hard, because I have friends who have gone through that. Obviously, I mean, not men, but women. So it's tough.
I'm very interested in the line between Because I do think that there is a narrative in porn occasionally. I don't think porn has to be like, it doesn't have to be Pornhub material. Like, I've seen some porn that I'm like, oh, that's, I believe everything that's happening right now. I think that sex is art. I also think that, I don't, and everyone's different.
I would say it's frustrating when the bad guy wins, kind of like world politics these days. But I guess that sometimes happens. You have to outsmart the bad guy sometimes to win the game. I would say that assuming it's done right in terms of casting and everything, I think that it should come across as satire. It's definitely not a pornography. There's a story and real characters and arcs and things. So it's not like a B movie, but it should be interesting for sure.
How would you describe this movie to a friend if this was an actual movie?
I would tell them definitely to go see it. It's suspenseful, and the story is unique, you know, and the script is well made, and with casting, it could be a beautiful picture.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's quite a word to use. Do you identify with any of the characters, or did you feel like...
I do, Heather.
You do identify.
She's strong, and she's stuck by her man. You know, that's the type of person I am.
Wow. So you would definitely say to friends that this was something that they should go see and experience.
Yes.
You said it was part. Would you say part of it's kind of like a horror film?
No, it's just a well-made story. It's a good story. Suspenseful, not horror. I would describe Heather as a strong individual. She's no nonsense. She sticks by her man, and I think she's a wonderful character.
How would you describe the character played by Tye, the Sharon character?
I don't like her, but I mean, yeah, I mean, Tye played her well, but Sharon, I mean, she's a beast. She's a beast.
She's a real villain, right?
Yeah, she is.
And what do you think she's sort of the reason everything happens the way it does in the story, right?
Yes, because her intentions were never good. It's like she met this man, she wanted her way with him, even when he, you know, didn't give her anything back, you know. So, yeah.
Tye, as a feminist, when you were talking about, how would you characterize this film to women if you were describing it?
I would characterize this film as a satire, but I would also characterize it, it depends on how it's filmed. To me, there's some slight horror elements to it, like that nightmare that Jake had. I could see that being kind of horrifying. But it's also kind of funny and a satire. But I would also, if I were to describe or characterize this film to my friends, I would say, you know, you might have some problems with some issues, like the reference, you know, seafood and all that. That might be an issue for you. But it also really looks at maybe how, you know, it's like gender binaries maybe aren't always just one thing, like this is always a woman's experience and this is always a man's experience, because it kind of shows us that women sometimes have men's experiences and men sometimes have what's traditionally women's experiences.
Would you say, in terms of aggression, the female aspect, how it's expressed in this story, do you think that's something people will identify with or find villainous?
Well, I think people can identify with villains, so I think it could be both at the same time, because I think a lot of people have a lot of anger and a lot of aggression, and I think some people are more predatory than others. So some people would be able to identify with any of the villains in the movie, I think. Maybe some people wouldn't admit to themselves that they can identify, but they are anyway. If that's too complicated, I'm sorry, but I'm saying that I think some people could identify with villains.
Would you guys call this a date movie?
I mean, yeah, you could. I think I don't believe in discriminating against films for dates. Like I went on a date to see The Descent, which is about, have you seen that?
I've seen the trailer.
Yeah. I saw that Carey Mulligan movie that's about sexual addiction. I went on a date to that. I think it can be a date movie, absolutely. It's something to talk about afterwards, and depending on the aesthetic that's chosen, you know, it's interesting hearing people talk about it, because now it's like, oh, I could see how this could be ridiculously funny and like, oh my god, this is so wrong. Like, oh my god, this is so weird. Like the cookie thing, that didn't, the first time hearing it out loud, that didn't read when I read it on paper. It really didn't, like in my head. So yeah, it could totally be a date movie. I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think any good movie is a date movie. Anything that's fun, anything that's not boring is a date movie to me.
How would you feel as an actor?
Yeah.
Say you were cast in this role.
Yeah.
How would the sex scenes have to be handled for you to be comfortable?
Oh my gosh. Well,
because they're very explicit. How, as an actor?
I feel like, well, if I had to prepare for it, I guess it would just be natural to me. I would just like go along with my partner, you know, and try to just do the best I can, I guess.
You don't feel uncomfortable about it?
No.
It's a job.
It's a job, and I want to put the best work out there I can.
As an actor, well, you know, honestly, I would feel fine because I have no problem with sex. If you're comfortable with your body, like, why not? And especially with full frontal male nudity is something you don't see a lot of. Like, it's like 1 second of it. You see it and it's there. And
like 50 Shades of Grey doesn't even show.
Yeah!
That's
Or
just
even,
so goofy.
even like, I remember Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
We didn't see anything, really. We did not see anything. You never see in films. So, yeah, I'd be great with that.
To be honest, as an actor, comedian, I am kind of uncomfortable being sexual on camera and off. That's private time for me. But if the project is going to be really great, I would probably drink alcohol, lots of it, to get through it.
As a non-actor, I think the sex scenes, for me, I'm very shy, and I actually have all kinds of sexual issues, and I wish I didn't, so that's cool that you don't, but I actually have all kinds. And, but I do think in this okay, I guess what I want to say is, I wish that we did see the male genitals in more films, because I think that would be feminist.
Yeah.
Because that's the taboo.
Yeah.
The only time we really see it is the porn, and then, like, that's the whole thing, then it's all about his pleasure.
Yeah.
Even though she's representing it. But so, but I think the sex scene in this movie, you know, I think every sex scene has to be handled so carefully, but the sex in this is so crucial. The main thing is I wouldn't want to exploit his body the way women's bodies have been exploited, but I also wouldn't want to hide from his body either.
I would tell her that maybe there's some scenes I was a little uncomfortable with shooting, well, being a part of, like the fight scene, because I don't like to fight. But I would just tell her, this is me. This is my character, and my character is me basically coming out and just, you know, it's basically my personality coming out of my character.
I would want whatever I'm doing with the female body, I would also want to be doing with the male body. So I would just want to make sure everything's balanced. Like if the women are fighting and I have close-up brutal shots of Heather and Sharon punching each other out, I think it's great that we have that. But if we're going to do that in a brutal close-up, we've got to do that with the men too when they fight. So whatever sexual explicitness we see, whatever violent explicitness we see, we have to make sure that, like, all the genders, and if there are different people of different colors in here, we have to just, it's got to be equal and balanced. That's how I would approach it.
I think in some ways this movie would be gratifying for a lot of women, especially if you do really sexualize the man, because there have been so many movies where it's the opposite. I think a lot of women would enjoy seeing a man really taking it hard. And some men would probably like that too.